Welcome, everyone, to a very special edition of the Winning Together podcast. My name is Shay. It's such a great day, Aslett. Across from Jared, the clinician nerd, Casey. Hey, Jared, how you doing?
Feeling very nerdy.
Hey, it's good to be a nerd these days, man. And more importantly, it's good to be your authentic self. This special edition of the Win Together podcast, we are expanding is not the right word, but we are delving into some topics that came up during a special event that the Iron Recovery outfit hosted called the Arena Talks. And the Arena Talks is, Jared, your brainchild of helping a community see how to get into the arena. And we're using the arena in the way that Brene Brown describes the Teddy Roosevelt quote of being in the arena, getting bloody and messy and dirty, and that's where the joy and happiness lives. And our specific platform was into the arena. How do you get into the arena with somebody you love who's in recovery? So what are some of the topics we want to hit today, Jared?
Yeah, first of all, I love the opportunity we had to meet with families and get their direct perspectives of what they're seeing on the other side of their family member who's struggling. And it really brought us a lot of rich content that we can help people understand a little bit better. And that time we had flew by. Like we did a 2-hour event. It felt like it was 20 minutes.
Yeah, at the end I felt like we were just revving up and really kind of getting into it.
So this is Shay and I committed, well, I kind of committed him to it whether he liked it or not. They would hit every topic from that event over the next couple of podcasts and put them out there today. So we're going to start hitting that today. And one of the first topics we want to talk about is just understanding how to share the good stuff.
Letting the good stuff in.
So Shay, I would love for you to kind of head it off. And what does that mean?
So here's the example that came up during our discussion was this relationship, these parents and this child were missing. At the heart of this is connection, is really how do you connect with those important relationships in a way that you're fostering growth and happiness and joy and connection. And they're feeling disconnected from their child, and they were at school and they learned that their son was a push-up champion. Mm-hmm. And they'd never even heard a thing about it. Knew he was a good athlete and knew he was a good kid, and they knew that we're struggling in these areas, but the good stuff wasn't part of the family dialogue, culture, dynamic, or experience, and they're missing a huge opportunity for connection.
You know, the irony in my own family growing up, I've got 7 brothers and 1 sister, and I had one brother who struggled with drug addiction, and he was a straight A student. None of us knew. He was probably the smartest one of all of us, but he, for whatever reason, he only gave us the rough side, the bad side. And it was hard on our family. And it was a big shock when one day he comes in with a haircut and he takes out the earrings and he puts down a paper and says he's going to serve an LDS mission.
Whoa.
And we're like, whoa, something changed there. And it was just a big shock. But that's like my parents. It's like you would never have seen them happier people in the whole world. This son they thought was lost to the drug world had flipped the script, gave them the best news they ever had.
So what goes on there in a family where the A's aren't part of the acknowledgement or the discussion or the experience, the connection, but the drug addiction and the poor choice in hairstyles and the earrings are?
It's complicated. Family dynamics, if you take out all the drugs, you take out all that stuff, families are hard. It's hard to have good communication. It's hard to have an understanding of how each other needs to feel loved. And wherever you fit in that family dynamic, middle child, youngest child, oldest child, neglected child, favorite child, however that fits, can greatly impact how you respond to the family system. And you mix in some drug abuse or some alcohol abuse or some pornography abuse or whatever that is, and you really start to get a black sheep child, or the child who's considered the scapegoat, and that scapegoat gets attention. And sometimes that's the attention that they crave, but it's the only way they know how to get it based on the way they've been set up in this family. So it's very complicated. However, scapegoats can change, but family members have to start seeing the scapegoat differently and stop pulling them into that.
I've been diving into some of Dr. Shafali's work on parenting, and one of the things that I really wanted to come through in the Into the Arena is, if you want something to come out in the relationship you're concerned about, you do it. You do it to the best of your abilities, and expect isn't the right word, but it's the right way of saying it, and expect that to come out in your relationship somehow. You can't control the other person, but you give with the faith that you'll get. And if you're not being positive and grace, you giving your own self grace, your kid's not going to get it or feel it either. And you can't put on what you want your kid to be without you being willing and open to changing in that same way.
It's so true, yet we live in denial of that.
Mm-hmm.
We think that, well, I can project the right way to do this. I can show my kids the right way to do this, but I don't feel that way about myself,
mm-hmm.
or I don't live that way myself. And kids are smart, intuitive. They feel it. They know the genuine you. That's why they get under your skin so well.
Mm-hmm.
They know every button to push. They know how to manipulate and how to get what they need. And if they need your attention, they'll find a way to get it. One of my favorite professors would talk about the dynamics of child abuse. And he would say, children would rather be beaten than ignored. And they'll push you to do that. So we have to start looking at ourselves like, what's my role? Have I created a scapegoat in my family? Have I created someone who's a black sheep? Have I created someone who is trapped? And then what else is mixed in there? So how can I pull out?
So a couple of facts here we need to underline that conversation with. Negative comments, statements, attitudes are more sticky than positive comments, statements, or attitudes. Meaning you've got to outweigh the negative with the positive. And you don't need to make stuff up. You don't need to make it look better than it is. You just need to make sure you call attention to the positive things and put negative things in their proper perspective. So that's the science behind why it's so important to bolster your culture, your family culture, with positive and actively, aggressively address that connection with the positive that's going on and with the good things that are going on.
Yeah, and just another study recently showed that 80% of Americans live with a negative voice in their head.
80%
have a negative dialogue. And I'd venture, if you asked those people whose voice they're hearing, a large percentage of the time it's going to be a parent.
Their parents' unhealthy, lesser, not best version of themselves.
Exactly. And we're not assigning blame. We're looking at, maybe that's how we were raised. Maybe that's how your parents raised you or your grandparents raised you, and they were in an era of Great Depression or whatever that is, and it was a hard time. And that harder emotional processing gets kind of passed down the family chain, and the next generation has to live with it. I know, like my father, he wasn't raised with a father because his father died of alcoholism when he was just a baby.
Wow.
So he was raised by brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles, and he didn't really have a lot to work with. And he did the best he could with what he had. We're the same way. I mean, we have our default settings, but if we want to help our families bond, we have to learn to do some things. And as a man, I have to learn how to cry in front of my kids. I have to learn how to be vulnerable. I have to learn how to say sorry. I have to learn how to get down low and look my kids in the eye instead of stand 10 feet tall to their little faces. I have to learn how to give them hugs and love and reassurance before correction, before anger, before the natural default settings of great-great-great-great-grandma or grandpa that was passed down to me.
So I think an important underlying here is you're talking about family history, and when you want to win together, or as you want to win together, you talk about family history in a way of solving problems, not trying to find victims, not trying to find, assign villains. Like, it is what it is, it was what it was, and we've been given today, which means we can choose a different way to go, or a different way to approach it, a different way to be. So, alcoholism was in my family history too, and so you could never be too good. So when you started to shine in any area, it was got your head cut off. And so that's one of the areas that why the good did not get spread in our family is you can be good, but not too good. Because if you're too good, then you're better than other people, and if you're better than other people, then you're a bad person. And whether it's success in a career, money, or whatever, those are bad people. Wow, what a load of horse crap.
Oh, so horse crap. Yeah, and you see that in different ways. And the difficult part is families that are in it, that is their world. So, Malcolm Gladwell says if you're a worm in a horseradish, your whole world is horseradish. So until you're pulled out of that horseradish and start looking around and see there's a whole wide world of a better way of doing things, you're gonna stay stuck. And you're going to keep getting frustrated that all you get is the same thing over and over again. And there's a reason you're not getting the good stuff. That good stuff isn't being heard. It's not being validated. It's not being seen. Or if it is, it's not being appreciated. So like you said, you have to go against that negative dialogue or that negative programming and start to recognize your loved ones and giving them space to be good, to be bad, to be whatever, and to feel.
Yeah, no connection is the worst. So like what you're saying, where kids or adults will seek negative attention over no attention, or learn to do healthy and positive and strong, right? Okay, so let's talk about some strategies and tactics around that. So like first of all, you're gonna say in our family we're gonna acknowledge or validate the positive, and we want to connect, or I'm not connecting with you in a certain way, and acknowledging I want to connect with you in a way that we're not connecting.
Yeah, I think the first piece is understanding that communication takes at least one person having a level head, and it takes some humility and willingness to let the other person, the family or their friend or whoever, save some face. Because if you're sticking in these old patterns where someone's got to win or someone's got to be wrong, someone's got to be more right, then it's not going to move forward.
Right.
So if you're willing to concede and be more humble about communication and start to ask your loved ones, what am I missing? What about you do I not know? What are you about? I asked that to a client last week. He's like, no one's ever asked me that. What am I about? Like really getting interested, becoming an investigative, non-judgmental reporter to your loved one, and stop seeing the perceived sickness or sin and start seeing the human being created by a higher power, and let that come out.
And a very good way to do that is, hey, we win together, and you're not winning, and if you're not winning, I'm not winning. And that's a way that you don't have to feel like, sometimes people feel like if they're being humble that they're losing in that, and it's not about that. Like, the attitude is right. It's humility and being willing to hear what you don't want to hear, because what you really, really want is connection with this relationship. So a way that works is, hey, you're not winning, and if you're not winning, I'm not winning, and I want to win. Like, what are you about? What are you doing? What am I missing? And I understand, and it's okay that if you don't trust me, because something's there, but I want to earn that trust with you. So how can we do that?
I think of this, I hear this so often with clients. They'll say, well, my mom will never do that. My dad will never change.
Yep.
My grandpa, that's just how he is. So if we're on the other side of that and people are viewing us as unchangeable beings, that's a really hard position to be put in, but there's probably some truth in it.
Yep.
We've been living in an unchangeable way. But if you're listening to this, credit to you, you're seeking change.
Yep.
You're seeking to do different. It does take some work. It does crack some bones. It's difficult. You got to break them to rebuild them, put them in the right place. Short thought, when I was a little boy, my brother who struggled with drug addiction, I was probably, 8, 9, 7-ish. He was being really aggressive and angry and yelling and throwing things, and I was sitting on the stairs and I watched his fist go up to hit my mom.
Whoa.
And he pulled back right at the last second as they're screaming toe to toe, yelling at each other. And I remember my dad pulled him out of the room, took him outside. And when my dad came back, I was like, in kind of a shock moment. And I talked to him like, and I don't remember all the words, but I remember saying something to the effect, so can I not love my brother now? Can he's a bad person because of what he's doing or what he's done? And my dad just looked at me with as much patience as he could muster after a situation like that. And he just said, Jared, we love the sinner, not the sin. And that set in me pretty deep. And I was so appreciative of my father's love and perspective in such a difficult time. I'm so grateful for that.
Why?
It allowed me to not have to exclude someone I loved who was doing something horrible from my life. It allowed me to see them as a human being with mistakes, and that I can make mistakes too. And I can still love my mom, and I can love my brother.
How did you separate the behavior from the person as a youngster?
I observed a lot. Being the youngest child of 9, I was able to witness all kinds of family drama, all kinds of family dynamic, all kinds of dysfunction and function, love and what seemed like hate sometimes. And I became an excellent observer. And as I observed, I decided by choice that I wasn't going to do some of the things that I saw my other brothers doing. And it was difficult. And some people, would view me differently because I was the youngest, and I didn't have to put up with the angrier parents that were angry with the older kids, the kids they had to learn on. And by the time they got to me, they were worn out and tired.
Sure.
Regardless, it was observing and choice.
So how would you're the clinician, how would you counsel a parent who knows they need to become more observant, but is struggling to do so?
It's allowing space inside yourself to do it, to create it. I would ask a parent to ask themselves, is this what I really want? Is what I have with my relationship with these loved ones what I really want? Or could I allow space for it to be a little bit better? And if you can allow a little space for it to be a little better, and you can start asking yourself, what can I do to be better? You will find lots and lots of answers. And then you start asking other people, what can I do better? You'll get even more. And you start asking your higher power or God, what could I do better? You just open up the windows of heaven.
I love that. So I'm the coach. And what I also need you to do in this situation is let people know what you're doing and let them know that you're trying to improve in certain areas. And when you do something good or better than you had, no matter how small it is, let somebody know and also ask for validation. Hey, I want you to notice me. Notice is a fantastic word in a family. Hey, I want you to notice I didn't blow my stack like I said I was going to, it was going to control my temper like I said I would. I need you to notice that. And it's not that you're seeking an ego stroke, but you are creating a culture where you notice the good things. And in old family dynamics will come back and try and snatch that and say, well, that's just one time, that doesn't count. Or that you're just being a hypocrite, you really aren't that way. Whenever that comes up, you just say, no, I'm practicing being different. This is progress. And I want you to notice it, but if you don't, I understand. Because just by asking somebody else to notice it, that means you're noticing it yourself. And now you're creating a culture, or starting to, where the positive and the good things get acknowledged and validated and noticed as equally or even more important than the negative stuff.
That's excellent advice. And it takes the willingness to be vulnerable, to share and learn. And what happens often is when you start to do that, people are surprised. My mom never would change. My dad never would change.
Skeptical for sure too.
Skeptical. And as they do change, that gives them this little recognition themselves that they can't keep blaming.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And when that blame is removed because you've chosen to change, they have lost one more reason to abuse drugs or alcohol or to abuse relationships.
And you're letting go of a weak part of you that you've allowed to dictate how the relationship is, that now you're allowing healthy and strong you to come in and change that, create a different possibility. Letting the good stuff in, I think that's a fantastic topic. Thank you, Jared. That's
Thank
really
you, Shay.
good. Everyone, this is Into the Arena with Jared, the king of connection, Casey, and Shay, the coach, Aslett. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thank you, Shay.